Obviously, it is frustrating to everyone but Chris Russell that the Wizards did not make that trade a couple years ago. Essig, I really got you with that one, didn't I? I could see your face. I saw you just like almost fall out of your chair when I said that.
Yeah, it's been a interesting day in 980ville.
Yeah.
I had 3 hours before hanging out with you, with Chris.
Yep, they call that your day job.
Yes.
Thank you for the bonus work. Appreciate it.
Not a problem. And he was adamant that there is not a single fan in all of DC that would have been opposed or would have liked a trade 2 years ago for Bradley Beal. And given little behind the scenes, 2 years ago, I was up in New York working for CBS Sports Radio.
Yeah.
So I was not here, so I can't speak to what the fan base in DC actually would have to say about that. But from my perspective, we were cutting tape from all of the games, from all of the teams, and we weren't cutting a whole lot of Wizards, despite the fact they were still good. We weren't playing a whole lot of Wizards cuts because they were middling, even though they were good. And he would get a lot of points, but he would get points and they still wouldn't win. Yep. So you're not playing cuts from the team that didn't win. And so it was very much a state of he's a very good player, but he's not that
good.
Guy. And you need in the NBA you need that guy.
Yeah, and I can say as someone who was here, the fans were ready to trade him a couple years ago. Everyone, when he signed, there was like a mini extension that he signed before the big one last season. People lost their minds. What are they doing? Or like, if anything, it was celebration of like, oh yeah, this is the one to set him up for the trade. Never happened.
Yep.
Happened now. We will unpack the Russellness of it later. That was meant to be a drive-by for chicanery and fun.
Yes.
As I'm wont to do. But unless you're Chris Russell, everybody's mad that they didn't trade him 2 years ago or even last year. But Matt, what's coming up on Thursday? What big event?
If I'm correct, that would be the NBA draft.
Bingo.
The thing that you build your roster and get your superstar and generational players out of, actually?
Yeah, I don't know how. We used to work together on the football podcast, and now you produce Chris's show. And I don't know how big of an NBA guy you are, how big of an NBA draft guy you are. Have you heard about this NBA draft?
I've heard a couple names. I've heard a couple players. There's this one player, Victor Wembanyama, who's
Wembanyama, close enough.
Yes, who's kind of all over the news, you know?
Yeah, he's 7'4" and like handles as well as Durant and shoots like Durant and is taller than Durant. Yeah, that guy.
But I mean, that just goes to prove that there are always, and I would say in most draft years, there's at least one or two players who have the capability, if they're in the right situation with the right team, to really make a difference and be that guy that can bring it.
But here's the thing.
You got to be there for it.
So here's the thing that I'm getting to, Matt. When I talked about this year is 1 year too late to be making the Beal deal. You trade Brad last offseason. You're probably terrible this year. They weren't good with him.
No.
But they would have been terrible. And by the way, they would have probably flipped Porzingis and or Kuzma as well. You accumulated more draft capital and you move on and you start over. And you're just bad. Victor Wembanyama was in this draft. Scoot Henderson might be a generational type guy. He's in this draft. Brandon Miller all of a sudden might get drafted before Scoot Henderson. He's in this draft. This draft has been circled on NBA draft calendars for years as this is when you're going to be bad. And by the way, like we're going to see this in the NFL this year. If teams are bad midway through the season, they are going to, as close as in the NFL you can, to tank. They're going to make, they're going to prioritize development, we'll say, right? They're going, we're going to play these young guys. We just want to get them some snaps. No, they're organizationally, their general managers going to the coaches and being like, look, buddy, I'm sorry. I really hope you don't get fired. If it's up to me, you won't. But, like, we need to suck because you have Caleb Williams and Drake May and, like, 3 or 4 other quarterbacks that would probably be the first quarterback off the board if they were taken in either of the last 2 drafts.
And I think it's important to note with regards to that, the current draft that we're talking about, this upcoming draft, it's not like we were fantastic last year, and that's why we're not in the running for it. We were middling. We were not good.
Exactly what everyone thought they would be.
Yeah, exactly. And in the process, we gave up the potential for a fantastic pick in a fantastic draft.
Right. And that's
I think that's also why people are upset, is that we've been playing in middle of the road for so long that they just want to see 100%.
Success. And it's not just that, right? It's not just that they've been mediocre or middling or whatever other M word that signifies that you are stuck halfway up the standings. It is that there was no path to being better than that. And that's the thing that just makes my blood boil when we talk about this. And this is why Ted ultimately makes the moves and brings in someone from the outside to be able to tell him, hey, buddy, you got to do some things differently. Because there was no path, and there has not been, arguably going back to like before you really understood what Brad and John were as players. But let's give them the benefit of the doubt that in 2016, 2017, when they're making the playoffs, that they could have added another piece, and that John Wall, Bradley Beal, and said piece could have been good enough to make the NBA Finals in a way similar that Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray have grown into this team that is good enough to win an NBA championship. Let's pretend like that was on the table. We obviously know in hindsight that was not the case. But let's say in that moment, run it back again. Beal's getting older. He's getting better. Wall's still in his prime. You know, they just got to replace like the Paul Pierce type of piece, but with someone even better than that and younger. Like, there's guys, there's Ariza, like there's pieces here. And they mangled the bleep out of that. And ever since they moved on from John, there has been no way to get that, even that third piece. Or once Beal is your number one, that second piece. The closest they get is Porzingis, right? Who's fine as a second piece, but not if Brad's your first. And it's like, okay, we got Kuzma. Like, oh, he scores 20 points a game now. Okay, to what? 35 wins? If you extrapolate the record of the 20 whatever games they played together this year, it's 38 wins? What are we talking about? And so if you have the foresight to look at this team and go, hey, this ain't good enough. We don't have a path. You sell as high as you can on all of them. And you do it with the idea that you would have had maximal draft capital in this draft. And everybody knew that was a good strategy because this draft has been a known commodity, as known as drafts get, for years. And now what you're hoping is some kid in high school is going to make your franchise 3 years from now. And that's not a shot, by the way, at Winger and Dawkins. They just got here. And if it's a shot at anyone that's still here, I guess it's Ted. But I'm not really trying to take shots. I'm not trying to be like, take your lashes out in the town square. Like, I'm not doing that. I'm just giving you the analysis. Like, this is why it's so frustrating, is because not only did you not sell high on Beal or sell higher on Beal or even let the market play out on Beal because of that dumbass no trade clause, you did all of that and screwed yourself out of extra picks in this draft, out of a higher pick in this draft, out of more capital to potentially move up in this draft, to be bad and naturally be more up in this draft. Not good. We're Spurrier. Not very good. The only place we have that bite is in the Real Things intro. But I think people know what I'm talking about.
What's up, kiddos? It's your boy Clinton Yates from ESPN. It's the Hoffman Show on the Team 980. Tell your mama I said what's up.